Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show Wednesday edition. Want to remind everybody, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button so Keith and I can wear our Halloween costumes on Halloween for a show. I'm already coming up with some ideas. I want to make it something fun and something that at least I will, maybe nobody else will, but at least that I will find funny. But we got to hit 35,000 subscribers. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Keith, I think if and when we do hit 35,000, the pressure is going to be on to come up with something good because we've hyped this up so much.
Yeah, for sure. But y'all got some work to do. We're still a few hundred shy of that. So get to work, get there, get subscribed on the show, and then you get to see us dressed up probably like stupid idiots. So that'll be fun for everybody.
I remembered your idea for a celery cap from the past. Do you remember that one?
I did. Remember, I wore it in the summertime.
That's right. The celery cap one.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. If anybody wants to see me really look like a fool on our first free agent show recap, it was our live. It's under the live videos, so you have to find it there. It was June 30th of this year. I wore 2 aprons and a bike helmet to represent the hard cap, and then I put on my salary cap later in the show. We had a good time. It was certainly one of our more memorable episodes.
For sure. Hopefully we'll get to do another one on Halloween. Keith, before we get to we've got a bunch of topics today, but do want to note Julius Randle should be making his NBA or his preseason debut for the Wolves, his Wolves debut.
Yep.
A few debuts there tonight, but then also Lonzo Ball, almost 3 years since he's played an NBA game, and he should be playing tonight for the Chicago Bulls. So some exciting stuff going on around the league tonight. I know it's still just preseason, and a lot of people are ready to look forward to the regular season, but pretty big for Lonzo Ball to get back on the court here at this point.
Yeah, big time. I'm super excited for that one. I'll definitely be dialed in watching that because you get both in one game there
right.
with Randall and the Bulls. So yeah, it's we're getting down to it on preseason. We got 3 nights of preseason left, so we are a week out from what I kind of consider to be like real opening night, like when like almost everybody plays and we have like a 10 game night or whatever it is that Wednesday. So we're almost there. We're down to it. Teams know we're almost there. We got 9 million roster moves happening right now. Guys being waived, guys being signed and waived, all kinds of stuff. So we're getting down to it.
Are you going to be using that multi-screen view that League Pass is now featuring?
I won't probably use it on there because I tend to watch more on TV and then I'll second screen a game on like my iPad. But DirecTV has a multi-screen view that I do like quite a bit. Right. They have one that's it ranges between like 2 and 8 games that you can watch all at once. So I tend to throw that on a little bit. But what I'll do a lot is I build myself a schedule so that I can kind of see everybody in equal amount. And then I'll let Twitter kind of direct me to like, hey, do you probably want to go check this out? This game's either close or players already got 25 points and it's, minutes into the second quarter or whatever. And then I'll kind of let that help me along the way of finding the other games I want to keep tabs on.
That makes sense. And then you get to see a little bit of everybody that way and, and all that. I find I'm going to try the multi-screen thing, but I've found it can be, especially with basketball, it can be tough. Like football, like this is why red zone works so well. There's so many stoppages. Like the ball is in play for 5 seconds and then they stop again. So you could watch like 4 games at the same time and really pay attention to all of them. Basketball is a little bit tougher, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to get a little bit of everybody in that way by watching the multi-screen. But anyway, we've got news to get into today. And let's start here. Doug McDermott to the Sacramento Kings. So now we know this was why they waived Jalen McDaniels and why they does this. I guess here's my question. We talked about this, I think it was yesterday or day before. We were talking about them maybe picking up Markelle Fultz. And I said, is it worth it? Is it worth the cost? Everything they had to trade to get Bezenkov off the roster and giving up Davion Mitchell and then having to attach a second plus cash to McDaniels, is Markelle Fultz being the end result worth all of that? And that was why I thought, you know what, maybe this buzz about the Kings being in on a bigger trade is a real thing here. Doug McDermott here is the end result. Is that enough? Is that clear the bar for the Kings? All these moves that they made, all the seconds that they had to give up, is this worth it?
Yeah, I don't know. In the end, we'll see. But I like McDermott a lot more for them
Sure.
than a lot of the other options that were kind of tossed around. Of course, I would have loved it if they turned around and had some big trade, like we speculated. Could they move Kevin Huerter, something like that? Nothing says they still couldn't do that. My assumption is with McDermott, he's coming in on a minimum deal. How we kind of know this is if in the tweet when it's the player signing, there's not a contract details, we generally know it's probably a minimum deal that the player got. So but that's just a guess at this point. We don't know because I don't think he's officially signed yet. But yeah, I like McDermott. I just looked it up for Doug McDermott, and if we go back to 2017-18, when he split the year between the Knicks and the Mavs. I kind of forgot he was ever on the Knicks.
That's news to me. I don't remember that at all. I've blocked that apparently.
He had these are his 3-point percentages year to year: 42.6, 40.8, 43.5, 38.8, 42.2, 41.3, 41. Last year, 43.9 with the Spurs. And then he kind of cratered a little bit in Indiana with his return back to the Pacers. Only 32% from three, only 40% overall. So certainly didn't deliver anything that the Pacers were looking for. But I'm going to trust the track record over a 20-game sample size with the Pacers. He can shoot. Now, can't do a whole lot else, right? He's not a defender. He's not a guy who's going to do a lot off the dribble. But for a Kings team, they've got more than enough playmakers. Give them another shooter and a shooter with some size. That can probably help them out on those nights when the ball's not going in so easily. Because that is probably the biggest question mark I have about this Kings team was, do they have enough shooting? Are they going to make jumpers enough? And if you get McDermott out there and see what it looks like, sure, why not? What's crazy about this tweet from Shams that you have on the screen too, 11th NBA season? What the, like, how is that?
How did that happen?
Like, yeah, come on, man. Like, that's nuts. Like, just every day I feel older.
Like, I would know. I know it's wrong in my, like, I know it's wrong what I would be thinking, but my initial thought, if you asked me how many years Doug McDermott has played, I would have said like 6. And I would know, and you know, but that would just be my initial thought, and then I would go, wait, no, it's got to be more than that. I would probably go to like 8 or something, but 11. Good. It feels like it was. See, Keith, we're sounding old. It feels like yesterday that he was just entering the draft. You know, I mean,
yeah, it really does. Yeah. So, but yeah, I all around, especially if this is a minimum deal, I like this pickup for the Kings. Doesn't rule out them doing something else. They'll have about $3 million-ish clearance under the luxury tax line to do something. They still have an open standard roster spot. Still have Kevin Huerter. So maybe down the line they find another trade. But I'm okay with this one. This is probably about as good as you're going to do for a free agent signing with days left in the offseason.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just given who's out there, he's certainly one of the better players that's out there on the market right now. All right, the Sacramento Kings weren't the only team to make a move. We speculated about this one happening. Scotty Pippen Jr. was bumped up from a 2-way contract with the Memphis Grizzlies to a standard deal. The Grizzlies did have a roster spot to fill there. And so Scotty Pippen Jr., and you know what, Keith, very well deserved. He was fantastic for the Grizzlies, filled in pretty well for them last season when they suffered all those injuries. As I recall, he missed a bit of time for the Grizz due to injury as well. But
that was mandatory if you were a Grizzly last year.
If you were a Grizzly, yes. Yeah, it's like when you're signing your contract, they hit you in the knee or something like that. That's what the Grizzlies do, because that was their luck last season. Sign your contract and wham, here's the injury. But
hold on, before we go any further, I just pulled it up. Who do you think led the Grizzlies in games played, and how many games did they play?
Ooh. Was it Jake? Was it Jake LaRavia? And I know he was. No, I'm gonna say, okay, that was just a
no. He's pretty far down the list
because he got hurt too.
All right, I'll give you a little bit of a hint. Only 5 Grizzlies appeared in more than 50 games.
Oh, jeez.
It's one of their big guys, one of their like name guys.
Was it Jaren Jackson?
Yep. He played in 66 games.
I was like, Jaren Jackson wasn't that injured last season, and then they shut him down towards the end of it because they're like, well, we're losing anyway, and so they shut him down. Jaren Jackson made sense.
So 66 games for him, 61 games for Santi Aldama, 55 for John Conchar, 52 for Vince Williams Jr., who's apparently paying the price for being moderately healthy and available last year by not being available now. And then Zaire Williams at 51 games. No other Grizzly played in more than 50 games last year.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I've said it before in the show, 33 guys played in games for the Grizzlies last season. The standard roster has 18 players on it.
It's insane. I don't know if that's a record or not, or if that's even a record that's kept.
It's got to be close.
It's got to be up there. That's got to be up there.
Anyway. So to go to Scotty Pippen Jr. though, I mean, well earned, right? Last year with Memphis in 21 NBA games, 16 starts because they were really kind of looking for anybody to start games. He averaged 12.9 points, 3.2 rebounds, 4.7 assists, 1.7 steals, which is actually a really high number. 49% from the field and 42% from three. So those are all really good numbers. I mean, this guy can play. He earned this spot. My thought is I still kind of think Marcus Smart is going to play this weird role of like starting small forward, backup point guard. But on the nights, if they need somebody else, or they just want to straight go to Scotty Pippen Jr. as a backup point guard, I think you're absolutely fine to do that. He is, this is good stuff for him. I think, this is a really good deal. I had a little bit of reporting earlier today. Years 1 and 2 are fully guaranteed. Year 3, partially guaranteed. Year 4 will be that standard kind of structure of partially guaranteed team option, non-guaranteed team option on that final year. So Memphis will have a little bit of control going forward with Scotty Pippen Jr., but he gets about $4 to $5 million total guaranteed over the next few years, which is really good for a guy who's been battling through the two-way process.
And if you're Memphis and you buy what he gave you last year and you say this is real, this is what he's going to be for us, that's an insane value with a lot of flexibility on this contract. I mean, that's a phenomenon. Again, there's risk. I'm not saying there's not. There's certainly risk from the Memphis side, but if he continues to do what he started to show last year, you're getting an excellent value on Scottie Pippen. And I love that this is a 4-year deal for the team side. This is a great deal for them. You'll have him through age 28 on this contract. I mean, that's, you're into his prime there at that point, and you're going to have him on, if he continues playing the way he did last season, what will be a below market value deal. So great job, I think, by the Grizzlies, and great job for Scotty Pippen Jr., who battled he's living the dream. He earned a full NBA contract after going undrafted.
Yeah, big time. Nudge this screen up just like one scroll so we get John Morant on there too. Sorry, the other way.
Yep.
So there it is. There's John Morant. This is why these types of signings are really important. The last 3 guys, if you're watching on YouTube, are Vince Williams Jr., Scotty Pippen Jr., and Gigi Jackson, who's also Gigi Jackson II. So apparently, if you're a junior, Memphis is all about you, or a second. Why not? But those guys, $2 million for Williams, $2.1 million for Scottie Pippen, $1.9 million for Gigi Jackson. These are the kind of value offset contracts, is like how I think about it. These offset John Morant, max deal.
Yeah.
Desmond Bane, nearly a max deal. Jaren Jackson Jr., he's only got 2 years left, and he's probably going to be on a near max deal. You got to have contracts like this on the back end of your roster to help offset as you get super expensive with those other guys. So really, the Grizzlies do really good work with their roster and cap management stuff. They never let things get too far out of control because they're constantly kind of tweaking and adjusting and rebalancing their roster with their guys. So I think, pretty good stuff. I'm also very encouraged. It sounds like a weird thing to be encouraged about. They were so precious for so long with every player that they drafted. It was like, well, we can't trade him. We drafted him. And it's like, yeah, but eventually, like, you can't keep everybody. and they just hung on and hung on and hung on. They've been really good over the last about 2.5 seasons of moving on from some of those guys when they need to. So it's all around good stuff from Memphis. I think they're they do it right, as far as managing, developing, growing a roster all the way through.
All right, let's jump over to a bit of an injury update here. Paul George, we got an update on him. He did have that hyperextended knee. There's a freeze frame of it that's been going around where it doesn't look good. It looks, painful. And what's been revealed is that there is a bone bruise. Watching it live, you could tell it wasn't awful, but it clearly hurt. Bone bruise. He's going to be reevaluated in a week. I'd imagine that reevaluation is going to determine whether he's there for the start of the season or not for the Philadelphia 76ers. So this would be a big news break here, and now just under a week, because that's going to tell us whether or not Paul George is playing opening night.
Yeah, opening night they play the Milwaukee Bucks, so pretty big game right out of the gate.
Yeah.
There, two teams that are trying to gain ground on the Celtics in the East, trying to keep up with the New York Knicks in the East. So that's a very fun game. That's the ESPN game on that opening Wednesday. So let's hope Paul George is there, Joel Embiid is there. Let's hope Chris Middleton can maybe play for the Bucks. We still don't really know what his full availability is going to look like yet. So I'm hopeful. But yeah, good news on Paul George. At least you'd rather nothing, but the way it looked and with the kind of, oh no, here we go again. This is actually a pretty positive update that even if he misses time, it doesn't sound like it'll be a whole lot of time at the beginning of the season.
Well, unless his name happens to be Kendrick Nunn, then a bone bruise will take him out the entire season. But hopefully that's not the path we go down here with Paul George. All right, let's jump over to the San Antonio Spurs. Victor Wembanyama had some interesting comments recently, and I guess Keith, let's start with he was talking to Sports Illustrated. Let's start with the comment about, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect of, meeting some of the guys that he looked up to in the NBA, that once he got to the NBA, he found out they don't work as hard as they should. What do you think? Like, how is the rest of the league going to take that?
Yeah, and for the most part, I think guys will be like, whatever, I don't really care. Like, I do think some guys I don't even know how many people will see this unless it's brought to their attention. I think some players are very online. There's as online as you, I, and everybody watching this, and they see everything. There's definitely people who I think in the league are pretty adept with name searching themselves on Twitter to find things out. But yeah, I get it. Like where he's, you've got the quote up there now. Like, I do kind of get what he's saying too. Like, we've been in enough locker rooms around teams and talked to players to know there are some guys who just get by. They do the minimum to do what they have to do, and that's it. And so I don't really mind it. I think there might be some approach of like, okay, young fella, like keep your mouth shut. What are you running your mouth for? Now, I did call out like Kevin Durant was one of his guys, which makes sense because he's always compared to KD. And he's like, I see immediately like how hard he works and like how he's able to be there and those kind of things. But yeah, it's the whole I'm not sure they deserve it part. That's the part that leaves me a little cold. But I mean, I don't know. We've all been faced with that at various times in life where there's people who are just naturally talented and they put in the bare minimum and they're okay. And then the rest of us have to work really, really hard and never quite get there. And it's always a little frustrating. So, I don't know. This will be a story today and probably fine tomorrow.
And what's interesting here is like saying, I'm not sure they deserve it. And they don't put in as much work as I thought. Well, and first of all, you want Wemby to put in a ton of work, and there's no question, but there's some guys that just kind of rely upon their natural gifts. They're just naturally athletic, or they happen to be insanely tall, like Victor Wembanyama. So, and I'm glad that he's putting in the work and everything, but he obviously has a big being the operative word, advantage that didn't require work for him to attain. So it's just kind of interesting that he's calling out guys that aren't working as hard when there's advantages that he has too without having to put in the work. Now I hope he does continue to put in the work and he becomes one of the greatest we've ever seen. Like that's certainly in the range of possibilities here with Wemby, but there are some guys who are blessed with certain gifts and they lean upon those. And that gives them, enough of an edge to where they can be a professional player and have a successful career and all of that. So I don't know. I just don't know if players are going to take this as this is a young guy kind of throwing shade at other players in the NBA. Is anybody going to go at him or something because of this? Probably not. But it comes across a little patronizing, I suppose.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me as much as I think it bothers you. I don't know. Guys say a lot of stuff. It's, you put a microphone in front of these guys for long enough, you're going to get something they're going to say that's like there. I did think it was interesting in that same interview with Chris Mannix. They talked about how Greg Popovich and the Spurs have worked with him on what they call the Nowitzki spots, which is, Dirk's positions, which was like, the wings, high pick and rolls, high post, both sides of that as a screener and as the playmaker with that. So I think that was really interesting. I thought it was his quote of, I'm expanding my game. I don't want to think twice. Like, I just want to play. So that means I have to, master all these skills and tools and all these things. And, I eventually want to have a bunch. And he basically says, like, I've got a whole lot of stuff to still work on to get there, but he doesn't want to have one role. He wants to be able to do everything, all at once. And that made me think, like, hey, don't get hot dog fingers from the movie. I've actually never seen that movie. I just know that part's in it. But yeah, he is a special player, man. He's gonna be something else. I love watching him, so I'm super excited to see what that looks like when we get there this summer.
Yeah, he says. I mean, this is the exciting thing. This season, yeah. The summer is gone, and the weather's getting colder. Leaves are changing. All that. This is. I don't think I've had one game where I really applied everything. Not one. I want to eventually have a wide variety of tools that I've really mastered. Well, and that's the key word there. That's where, like, I'm not necessarily, you try to do too many things at once and you wind up not being good at any of those things, right? But when he says mastered, that tells me he's focusing on specific skills and he's just going to add things to his toolbox, which is fantastic. I mean, this guy's got the sky's the limit for him. He can be so good, and it already is absolutely fantastic. And quotes like these, I think, are exciting when you hear him talking about all the things that he can add, because it makes you think, oh God, like he's already this good. And imagine once he starts to really come into his own. Whew. I mean, the Spurs, the Spurs got a great one, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what he can do.
Yeah, I just always go back and think about with the Spurs. There was a point in time pre-Wemby where in their entire 40-year existence as an NBA franchise, the Spurs had missed the playoffs 4 total times.
Yeah.
And in one of those years, they got David Robinson. And then in another one of those years, they got Tim Duncan. So that's how you make the playoffs, 40 out of 44 years or whatever it was, 20 plus years stuff there. And then you're bad for 2 years and you get Wembanyama. Sure, why not? I guess. People, I got asked the other day on a radio appearance, when's Pop going to retire? And I was like, why would he ever? He seems to love this, seems to be so happy doing it. I bet you too. He is way more happy. Like we talked about it, I think it was yesterday, how they're going to hold guys more accountable. I guarantee he's way more happy to be grumpy Pop again, where you can kind of, yell at guys and really kind of coach them up, because these games are starting to mean something for these guys. So I'm excited about that. I just go back to, it was almost a year ago. I was out at Arizona State for the Arizona State mock trade deadline, which that's coming up again in early November. I'll be out there again for that as one of the people helping with the event and helping judge the event. I'm super excited about that. It's a lot of fun. We'll talk more about it when we get there. Because these kids, they blow me away, man. These college age students, their knowledge of the game and all this stuff. And and I'm like, why didn't, I should have been born 20 years later, and I would have had these things too. But anyway, I went to watch the Suns and Spurs played back-to-back games, and I went and watched him absolutely dominate. And what was so crazy was you watch the Spurs players in real time. Now, this was only like a week, 2 weeks into the season. In real time, the Spurs players be like, just keep throwing it higher. Because
Yeah.
like the Suns can't do anything. They can't get to it if we just keep throwing it higher, and he will keep coming down with it. And there was a play, he caught it, he had two guys on him, and he literally, it's like if you're playing on like the 6-foot hoop in your driveway, and like your kids are hanging on you, and you just kind of turn and drop it into the basket.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's what it was. And it was like, this is absurd. And they just figured it out in real time of like, oh, all we got to do is just throw it to 15 feet in the air, and trust he'll jump up there and come down with it. It's wild. If you get a chance, people, to go see him play, go. Like take the opportunity, because you're gonna come away like, oh, you're gonna come away like, holy crap, he's huge. Like
Right.
he's just all arms and legs too, because he's just so skinny and so tall. But you're gonna come away, probably having seen him do something where you're gonna be like, what just happened? He easily leads the league in times. Like I rewind watching to
Right.
be like, what? I don't even understand that play where he stopped the 3-on-1 fast break last year and deterred all three guys from taking a layup. Was like, I must have watched that 100 times, because I was like, I don't even understand how this was like a thing. So
It shouldn't be
special
possible.
player.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So cool too. We're gonna get to experience his entire like career real time like this. Like that, just I mean, that's why I love this game. Right. Every few years we get somebody new who's really special. And it's then you get somebody like this guy might be an all-timer. Like, sign me up.
For sure. League is in good hands. League is in
Mm-hmm.
good hands. Last thing we've got for today, Landry Shamet, injured shoulder. Is this, I did not see the play. Is this a long-term thing, Keith?
We don't know yet. It looks like he dislocated it, is at least what the video looks like.
Yeah, I
It's
saw he
always hard
ran
to
right
tell
off the
with those
floor.
things. Yeah, right. Sometimes you pop it back in a few days later after they get swelling down, the guy's okay. Sometimes that turns into something else happened in there and it's a problem. The reason I wanted to put this in here is Landry Shamet reportedly had like the inside track on making the Knicks. The Knicks have 3 open standard roster spots right now. So they're going to have to fill 2 of them eventually, because you have to be at least 14 players most of the season. So he had the like inside track on getting one of those spots. It seemed like he had played in all of their preseason games. He had played minutes with their other rotation guys. It looked like he was going to get there. Now the question is, if this is he's going to miss months of the season, the Knicks may not be able to go in that direction with him, because the Knicks are in a spot where they are so tight to that second apron hard cap, a little over $3.5 million, that they really only have enough room to do 1 veteran minimum and 1 rookie minimum. And that rookie minimum has to be one of the guys who's their draft rights guys, because otherwise that counts at the 2-year veteran minimum amount towards the tax. So it gets super messy for them. So if it's not Shamet, they may not be able to afford, all right, we'll bring him in, but then we're just going to leave him kind of inactive for months, because they don't really have the depth to do that. Because remember, Mitchell Robinson's out till January 2.
Right.
So if you're in a spot where we got to have somebody who can play, this may be one where maybe Shamet goes away, then comes back down the line if the Knicks have freed up some more salary cap space or whatever, not cap space, but the apron space there. Then maybe they could bring him back in then. Because he was hurt with the Knicks, and people always ask this, he can rehab with the team, use the team facilities. He just can't like be a part of the team. So it would have to be like, all right, team's not there. You can come in and get your work done and that kind of stuff. Nobody's like standing there making sure like the NBA doesn't assign someone like, all right, everybody else out of the building. Okay, you can come in now. Like there's definitely crossover time, but he can't like actively be in meetings and watching practices and things like that. So,
but he can rehab, and we saw that. Like DeMarcus Cousins was out the entire season, still rehabbed with the Lakers. That was years ago. But teams, and that's the right way to do it. That's how
it's how it should be. Yeah. Well, it's like Shaq told us so many years ago. I'm going to do my surgery on company time, right? Like it's it's kind of a little bit of a different thing, but you got hurt on company time, you should be able to rehab on company time too. And his Exhibit 9 training camp contract does protect him. I believe it was $15K he'll get is injury protection. Like that's just how that works on those contracts. So we will get a little bit of money there. But yeah, so hopefully he's okay to be. I was really thought he probably was going to be on the team and kind of take on the Dante DiVincenzo role of the designated shooter off the bench, but we'll see now. We'll see what that looks like. But yeah, he's let's wait. We'll probably give an update in the next day or so when the Knicks give an update on the injury. But for now, we're kind of in a spot where wait and see.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps us up for today. Again, please make sure that you do subscribe to the channel. I'm looking to hit 35K before the end of the month. So hit that subscribe button. Thanks again.
I want to pump something real quick if I can.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time over the last couple of years talking to a lot of front office executives, agents, players, coaches about the way roster building has changed in the two-way contract era. This is going to be, I think we've got 7 years of two-way contracts already. This is going to be year 8. We're going into year 2 of having 3 two-way contracts. And what we've seen is teams have changed. Some teams are leaving that 15th roster spot open longer than they ever have before. So over on Spot Track, you can find it all over my timeline. I wrote about this for them about I called it the vanishing 15th roster spot, where a lot of teams are just no longer filling that spot until we're late into the year, especially if they're like a playoff team, they'll fill it then. But a lot of teams are letting that one ride because they have two-way players. It's also changed the way 10-day contracts work and like, so put a lot of effort in. There's a lot of great quotes in there from executives and coaches and a couple from players too, players that have been feel at least so that they've been impacted by this change in the way the NBA builds out their roster. So I think if you like this show and you like what we talk about here, you'll probably like the article. So go check it out.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that in the description down below as well on YouTube and on the podcast side. Good stuff, Keith. Appreciate it. And everybody, we'll be back tomorrow. Till then, see ya and stay safe.